morning, Electric Culture of Safety Line Team. Welcome again to another episode. This will be an amazing number 82. We got Mr. Joey Pellitier, the plant manager here with Bierer Meters. Met Joey about 8 years ago, and he started working here at Bierer Meters, and it's been amazing seeing his progress and his growth in the company and how he's helped the company grow and become better and better and better. So welcome aboard. This is going to be a one you're going to want to keep and listen to several times. So number 82, it's what do we got here? November the 12th, and it's winter. So it's a little cooler out here in South Carolina, but thank goodness we don't do any ice fishing in this state. So we're thankful for that. And tomorrow we got Mr. Derek Sane coming in with Bulwark. He's going to be talking about some AR and FR clothing, how to choose it properly, how to maintain it, take care of it, and the why and the how behind the clothing. So this will be amazing as well tomorrow. He's actually coming in from Arizona today to South Carolina, so we're excited to see him here as well. So real quick, Electric Culture of Safety, this coming up January will be 4 years, and you can see all the folks that have shared their logo to the Electric Culture of Safety partnership logo. We just picked up in our ECA this last August, and I'm going to make a formal announcement next week, but we had Dynagrid throw in their logo into the hat. So grassroots, nationwide safety culture, as you can see, it's live. We've got some wind blowing, and this stuff's going to be flying around here. So, but it's okay. So welcome aboard, and Mr. Joey, how you doing, man?
Doing great.
Good to see you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So give us some history about your life and coming to Bierer and how this is coming about.
I started off living in Johnson City, Tennessee with my career. I thought I was going to be in biology. Graduated from East Tennessee State University and tried to find some work there. And I happened to know the Bierers from my past. I knew some of the family back in middle school, and I hit you guys up and found the opportunity to work here, and started off opening boxes and shipping, and now I'm upstairs doing a little bit of plant managing. So
Yeah.
you know, it's crazy what happens in 8 years.
Yeah. Well, Joey says a little bit of plant managing, but it's actually a lot of plant managing as far as production and keeping track of everybody, both the grounding department and the cover-up goods that we produce and all the meters and the devices we produce. So there's a lot more to this than what Mr. Joey's going to be letting you know about. But we did a live wire with Joey several months ago, and the Warrior's Journey, and I was so impressed with his story, his background with martial arts and Kung Fu, right, Joey?
Kung Fu, yeah.
Kung Fu. And how long have you been practicing and studying Kung Fu?
I believe this is year 13. So
How much?
13 years.
13 years?
13 years, yeah.
Right.
So I'll go a little bit into that history
Nice.
in the slides.
Nice. Okay. Well, thank you, Joey, for coming here.
Yeah.
Okay. And we're looking forward to hearing you, man.
All
Thank
right,
you.
awesome. Well, Line Team, my presentation is kind of focusing on leadership, you know, because it's the culture of safety. You know, we have procedures, we have methods, and to achieve safety at a high level, we kind of have to tackle this beast from different viewpoints. So I thought a way I can contribute to the electrical culture of safety is talk about different viewpoints of leadership, and the focus of my presentation is on self-mastery. So with my background in martial arts, those skills that I acquired over the years, I've kind of accumulated them, and I've used them to get to where I've gotten, and how I lead my techs and how we run the facility. I'm in the background doing Kung Fu the whole time. So let me go a little bit of introduction to myself. Joey Pellitier. I'm the plant manager here at Bierer Meters. I've been with the company, like Brent said, for 8 years. It feels like yesterday, but 8 years flies by pretty fast. I have 13 years of martial arts background. So I started when I was in college. first art I found was called Iaido, and that's Japanese sword drawing. And then I got into Kung Fu, and I got into boxing. You know, I'll explain further on that I kind of just chose that's something who I want to be. So my educational background, I did get my bachelor's at East Tennessee State University in Bachelor of Sciences. I focused on biology, which is great because now I work with electricity. So, you know, I only missed it by a little bit. While I was here, I did attend a local community college and got my associates in electrical engineering. Taught me everything, how to deal with the devices and stuff. And I'm a huge person of education, so I don't think I've ever stopped. To get specific on my martial arts background, I have a black belt in Shaolin Kung Fu. My master's name was Gary Mullins. He was in Johnson City, Tennessee. And I got my black belt in Iaido from a teacher named Dale Kirby in Knoxville, Tennessee. So I've been doing those about the same time. On the bottom there, which funny backstory, I actually put my fight record on my resume because it kind of just shows people that I'm not just punching and kicking in my backyard. I wanted to pressure test my skills, my forms, my technique. And so 8-2-1, I feel pretty good about it. The one, that fight's actually on YouTube if you guys want to look at that one. I would disagree on the draw, but that's a different presentation. So let me give you guys a context on how we kind of get into self-mastery and how I've kind of recognized that. So like I was saying previously, that my goal once I started doing martial arts is I want to be like a modern day warrior. Military it just didn't happen, but the years and years of doing martial arts, you kind of acquire that kind of persona, and so I really wanted to pursue that. The quote I like to live by is, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. So good thing about getting good at fighting and getting good at martial arts is I'm not fighting people every day, but you know, the wife feels pretty happy when I'm out there that if something happens, you know, I can protect people. But I use that, you know, that keeps my spirit going on pursuing and constantly pursuing that goal. You know, in today's world, you have to pursue a career. As much as I'd like to make money being a samurai, you know, I got to be realistic. So, but everything is a skill, and every skill improves my martial arts. So, the hours and hours and hours I'm putting into training and my kung fu, my forms, the skill I'm going to try to amplify in this presentation is that thing that you love to do. You can transfer those skills over to the workplace, and if we can create really strong leaders that can recognize that skill, then that's gonna just make everyone better. So I love the saying, a rising tide brings up all ships, right? So that's what we're going to be trying to do today. I was blessed with the opportunity to lead here at Bierer Meters. I was a supervisor for a little bit. Now I'm the plant manager. So this is me pressure testing. You know, I'm in the ring now, and these ideas and concepts, you know, I'm pressure testing them. You know, so my greatest skills of leadership lie in the lessons I learned in martial arts. So I've been in it long enough now that I'm actually teaching people, and you know, when you're teaching somebody a really complex form, it's really no different than teaching people how to build a meter, right? So if I can understand the concepts, and I could see the same trends on how I train people in martial arts, I can use those same skills in training my techs and building complex devices. The seriousness of my training and fighting, I can channel to maintain a high level of discipline. So when you actually decide that you want to fight, you get in the ring, it's not a joke. You know, you can have fun doing it. I'm not super serious all the time, but when rubber hits the road, like you have to have that high level of discipline to have a prolonged level of success. So that's where my training, I'm hoping, is helping me be successful in being a plant manager. And then, like I said, how I train martial arts is how I'm going to train and lead my associates. So let's go a little bit into some definitions. A warrior specifically is a person engaged or experienced in warfare. Broadly, a person engaged in some struggle or conflict. So this is kind of my way of hooking you guys in that, you know, everyone could be a warrior. It doesn't have to be so specific. You know, we don't have to go around every day wearing armor. But if we can kind of channel that mindset, that code of honor, it's right there in front of you guys. It's there for you to grab it. I like to use a lot of metaphors. You know, I like to think that when I go into the workplace, it's my battlefield, and I'm going to take those lessons you learn in martial arts, and I'm going to use my mind to create a scenario where I'm being successful in a battlefield, right? I have a lot of book recommendations in this presentation because all of these ideas are not original. You just pick up what you get, and I'm going to try to give you guys where some of the resources that I got some of this stuff. For this slide, the Sun Tzu's Art of War. This book is ubiquitous in all, usually motivational speakers, high-level CEOs. You know, it's an ancient book, but there's a lot of great strategies in there, and if you can learn how to take those strategies and adjust them to your life, you'll be successful. One of them is if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. So in this context, the enemy isn't a person. It's uncertainty, it's fatigue, it's complacency. Like those things you can personify, those are your opponents. And when we understand ourselves and the environment we work in and safety, success becomes natural outcomes. Because that's really what we're trying to achieve, is that we're trying to achieve safety, and we've got to battle this thing from all different sides, you know, get the higher ground, so to speak. So we've got to be a little bit more specific. So how do you break down being a warrior, and what are kind of where you can get your mind in the game the whole time? We got the 3 pillars of a warrior: body, mind, and spirit. This presentation is not the barbarian's journey, it's the warrior's journey. It's a little bit more. It's not just punching and kicking and slicing all the time. So physical strength is not enough to embody the warrior spirit. We got to balance all 3. It's, you know, I'm not going to say work-life balance. That's a whole different discussion. But we do have to balance ourselves, our bodies, our mind, and our spirit. You know, we are the tools at the workplace. Like, we got to take care of this tool, much like how you have to take care of your meters, making sure the battery's good, making sure the probe's clean, you know, making sure you're not running it over too many times. We are also the tool ourselves, and we have to hold ourselves accountable into making sure we maintain ourselves. So being a warrior is a lifestyle, a way of being. So when I clock out, I'm not stopping being a plant manager. You know, the same skills I use as a plant manager. I go home and I got to take care of a 4-year-old and 1-year-old at the house, and I got to manage them a little bit too. So it's all the same thing. It's a lifestyle. I don't turn it off. You know? So let's go over each one. So first one, obviously, body. So in martial arts, you know, you're training the tool to be efficient, to withstand impact, to endure fatigue. In the workplace, it's the same thing. And I know with the utility industry, you guys are out there in the heat, you guys are on poles, and you guys got to maintain your body. So things like drinking lots of water, you know, exercising outside of work. It's probably a hot take. I know we have jobs that are extremely physical and you're real tired at the end of the day, but exercise and work are 2 different things. So I would challenge you guys to work on that kind of stuff outside of work, because you have to go back in there. And as a leader, if you're enveloping this kind of mindset, challenge your associates, challenge your techs. You know, I talk about working out all the time. Sometimes when we have days off, I like to run, do a couple miles, and I'll text the team like, hey, you know, hope you're having a good day off. This is what I'm doing. So little things like that. A book recommendation, From the Tiger's Mouth. That's an Eastern kind of medicine book. I put it in there because if you're a leader, I think it'd be good to kind of see different viewpoints. But all the same injuries that you acquire in fighting and in martial arts, you're going to get the same type of injuries on the job site. So there's some cool little different exercises, different stretches, even different kind of herbs and medicines to kind of help, because when you get hurt at the workplace, yes, you have to go to the doctor, the physical therapist, but you still have to maintain your body. So this book's kind of a nice read. I use it all the time. The quote is, "It is better to be made of stone than look like stone." So when I talk about the body, I'm not saying we all need to be jacked and look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. What I'm saying is you got to put in the work to make sure your body is a well-tuned machine. And to be made of stone than look like stone is when the pressure really hits. If your body's not maintained properly, the cracks will start to form. So we just always have to be conscious of our body. So going into the mind, we must always find ways to learn and grow our knowledge. So in our field here with electronics, I'm always boasting to everybody that there is a lifetime worth of knowledge just in our building. With the grounding department, that's a whole bag of its own, animal with the different devices, voltage detectors, current meters, all different stuff. And even when you learn how to build a device, there's something that happens when you understand the device. Then suddenly, even though your hands are doing the same thing, you're building that device faster, more efficiently, less problems. So we really have to create a culture in which we're actively teaching our team as we go. Kind of a tactic that I like to do when I'm teaching people a new device is I'm explaining voltage detection as we're learning how to build the device. I'm teaching why we have certain LEDs in certain spots. And what it does is it just creates an environment, a culture in which we're just constantly growing. Even when we get repairs in and the repairs are acting all kinds of crazy, so an issue we've never seen before, I like to bring the team together and we talk about it and we figure out the solution. And it just promotes a culture of continuous growth. Awareness is safety. The moment your mind drifts, danger steps in. So as a leader, if you're constantly teaching people as you're explaining the more simple steps, you're creating an awareness the whole time. And you're also creating a culture in which, as a leader, you're showing the people you're trying to learn how your mind is thinking. And as we see that, if I'm even just putting a resistor into a board and I'm talking about, well, here's the band code, and I always look at this resistor, and that way I don't have this issue. The person sees the little tiny skills that will generate a great awareness. But with awareness, you need discipline. So discipline over consistency, the essence of safety and excellence. So I'll get more into it here in a second, but we're not motivating our people. We're creating systems to create sustained discipline. So we need to really be focused on that. A calm mind sees opportunities at risks that others miss. So if your brain is somewhere off, you're not thinking about what you're doing, you're gonna miss stuff. You're gonna miss stuff. If I'm teaching about resistors and I'm explaining the band code, it's not just some general knowledge. When you have your mind on that, and as you're building the board, you'll see things where you'll catch that resistor out of 100 boards that's wrong, because I'm thinking about the band codes. And even though it might seem like a trivial, fundamental understanding, constantly keeping my mind clear on the task, that's where you're going to find issues. That's where you're gonna this intuition, which I'll talk about later, it's going to start getting stronger. That muscle will get stronger. So a book recommendation, Extreme Ownership. It's a book by Jocko Willink, real famous Navy SEAL guy. But the reason I put this for a good one for mind is because he's doing exactly what I'm doing. Like I said, I'm not being original. He was a Navy SEAL, a high-level Navy SEAL, and he took those skills in being a Navy SEAL and he transferred them over into how to teach people to be good leaders. So reading this book will kind of, it'll put in the words a little better than probably what I'm doing, but he'll explain a military story, and he'll metaphorically bring it over here and show you how to transverse those skills over to the work site, and that's the skill that what I'm trying to really show here today. A quote, and this is something I try to do every day: a day without learning is a waste of a day. So we can work out really hard, we can be super strong, but if I'm not learning something every day, that in itself is a skill. So we got to really constantly be learning. If you're in school from kindergarten the 12th grade. Some people go to college, it's another 4 years. I did the 4 years, and then I went back to get my associates, which took another 6 years, and it was not a pain at all. Like that enjoyment of learning all the time. If you can produce that culture of being a leader who talks about learning, who's constantly teaching people, that's going to just create more successful teams. Spirit. So spirit gives meaning to the struggle. It's why you fight. It's why you show up. It's why you care. So it's pride in doing your job right, even when nobody's watching. Integrity. So this one is real key, because you can get your techs to do how you, like, you can teach them this specific task. You can show them how to build this device. But it's when you step away is where all that stuff works. And if they don't have a good cultured spirit, they're not sharing the same passions as the company, then it's really not going to, you're not going to really get much headway. So I've heard, when you listen different stories about leadership, and if you hear a silly rumor, then something needs to change. So the rumor you don't want to hear is, when the cat's away, the mice will play, right? So we need to create a culture in which everyone's all on the same page. Y'all share the same spirit. And so when you step away, you know your team is accomplishing the goal the way you want it, the way they want to do it, and they have pride in what they do. It's a connection to your team, your family, and your purpose. So like I was saying earlier, when I clock out, I'm not clocking out my spirit as well. When I go home, I'm what I do here, the safety equipment we create, I have peace of mind that we're saving people's lives. I'm bringing it to my family. I feel good about it. And so my wife knows I feel good about it. She tells me all the time to stop talking about Bierer Meters, because I love working here, and we love what we do here, and we got to cultivate that spirit, and you got to really bring that to your team. And when the spirit breaks, safety fails, because people stop caring, because that is key, because safety is not just a thing you do. You don't go to the work site and there's safety and then you stomp on it. It's a continuous thing we have to constantly work on, and caring about that safety is a specific thing you have to do to work on it. So this is something that if you can cultivate that spirit, you can get people caring about what you do. It's not, you don't have to teach your guys to love putting poles in the ground, but the idea of what you're doing and cultivating that's where you can get a strong team. So if you guys seen all the videos with Brent loves taking our electrical reality, and he loves taking that idea and he mixes it in with his strong message of team. And and I've kind of been inspired to do a similar thing. We've all seen this this three-phase system. This is just a three-phase power output, and just like having your A phase, your B phase, and your C phase, we have our body, mind, and spirit, and we have to have balance between the three. If you have one phase that's producing way more than the other one, it's gonna disrupt the other two. You're not gonna have good rotation. You're not gonna have good wattage. So the idea is that we already have to learn about electricity. We are in the electricity utility industry, right? So you're gonna see these things. You're gonna see AC waves. You're gonna see the 3-power output. Team's law with Ohm's law. You're gonna see those things. And what we're trying to do is, by creating a culture where we're kind of mixing the reality of electricity and our ideas about being a good team, the ideas of your electrical reality and staying in a positive waveform. When you're learning those things, those complex and kind of abstract ideas are going to be in your head. And so this is just a constant reminder all the time. It's just a constant reminder. And the more discipline and consistency that we can maintain, the better outcomes and safety we're going to have. So to kind of go into a little bit of a rabbit hole, if you go on Google Images and you type in motivation versus discipline, this is the graph you're going to see. So we're not, like I've said before, I'm not trying to motivate my team. I'm trying to create systems to produce high-level discipline. It's the same thing with martial arts. You can teach people really complex forms and stuff, and you get them motivated, and they know that this move is your snap in the arm and all these crazy moves, 5-finger death punch. But if they're not going home and they're actively working on it, then you're going to have these negative waveforms. People are going to get discouraged, that they'll have a bad day and they just don't want to come to training that day. And then over time, you're not going to have a high level of success. So something I would love to put on here just to kind of continue the conversation about electricity. So if you have AC waveforms and you don't want that negative voltage, you would know you want to run that circuit through a rectifier, so a series of diodes. And if you do that, then you get that consistent positive waveform, even though you got an AC wave. Well, in this analogy, in this metaphor, the rectifier is the team leader. That team leader is going to be able to look at that team and make the decision so that the job is going to be positive all the time. And as long as he can keep that discipline, he can recognize that the team's working together, you may never have to worry about that negative waveform. So that's something you can see from these graphs. All right, so now I've really hit on being a warrior, and kind of how do you think about it as you're trying to perform that kind of duty. Let's get more into self-mastery. So to really get into self-mastery, we have to recognize and master the fundamentals. Expert technique is just a combination of well-executed fundamentals. So a great example is, I'll use boxing. Kung Fu sometimes a little abstract, but in boxing, really it's only 6 punches. When you're learning boxing, it's the jab, the cross, the 2 hooks, and the 2 uppercuts. All the other cool techniques that come out of that come from those 6 punches. So the super high level boxers, they're learning just a jab and a cross for 6 months. I remember when I first got into MMA, my coach, he looked at me and he said, do you just want to learn how to fight, or do you actually want to be a fighter? And I said, I actually want to be a fighter. And he said, we're going to do this one technique for 6 months. And if you get through that 6 months, then I know you're a good student. And all I did was work on the jab and the cross, a little bit of footwork, and I did that for 6 months. And now I'm here, right, 13 years later. So if we can find the fundamentals, and as a leader, as you're teaching certain tasks, if you can find the fundamentals and focus on them, then you can have 4 or 5 fundamentals, but they know how to do actually 100 different tasks. And those 4 or 5 fundamentals, you can mix and match them and create highly successful associates. Another way to think about mastery is it takes a very long time to be a master. I've been doing martial arts for 13 years. I'm not a master. I would not put that on a title yet. Eventually someone will call me a master. That's what I'm waiting for. But something that I do in the workplace, I believe there's a speech by the CEO of Toyota, and I took it from him, that he says every decision he makes, it has a 10-year horizon. So the conversations I'm having with people, the decisions I'm making, I'm thinking, how can I impact the company, the work site for 10 years into the future? Long-term thinking creates understanding of a holistic view. So in the 10-year horizon thing, this is good for leaders as you have new guys coming on, you see the skills they have, where do you want to see them in 10 years? And it's also good for the new guys coming on, because I know I've talked to people in the industry, one of the most difficult things is keeping these guys around, because if we can have super senior associates that have been around for a long time, 10 years plus of knowledge, and everybody is cultivating that long-term mindset, we're going to have those skills and safety, we can pass them on to the next generation. So as a leader myself, I try to proclaim that I'm thinking of things so that 10 years from now we'll have success. You know, we're relatively a small company, but in my head I'm making decisions that when we're huge, you know, we got multiple departments, we got the techs that are here today are the leaders of tomorrow. I'm making decisions and I'm constantly thinking about that, so that we don't get hit by something off the side, right? We want to have this long horizon of thinking. absorb what is useful, discard what is not, and what is unique, and keep what uniquely is your own. There's a little typo there, but it's kind of funny. You say to do something, but you don't want to get so focused on it, right? So when you're teaching people tasks, you want to make sure that you want to tell them how to do it, but they also have to have taken in what they're doing. Because at the end of the day, people don't want to be told exactly what to do all the time. They need to have their own personal investment in what you're teaching them. So keep that in your mind, that that's what you're doing. You're taking what's useful. There's stuff that you see that you don't think is useful, and then you can morph it and turn it your own. You also want to do that and keep that in your mind as you're teaching your team, so that people, when you have a good team and everybody has their great skills and they feel like it's their own, you're going to have better output from that team because they feel happy about what they're doing. And also creating that way where people are using what's useful, then that's where you create opportunities where people can fail safely, because that's also something you have to really be thinking about. So self-mastery has a positive feedback loop in it, and that's that the pursuit of mastery grows the muscle of intuition. So if you've heard some of Brent's stuff, he talks about the superpower. I think he's talking about intuition. It's almost like you can predict the future, and intuition is that muscle that we're trying to cultivate, to where you can almost have this superhuman thing. You know, you see some videos of high-level kung fu artists, and they'll do the thing where somebody's coming up and attacking them. And how do they know they're coming? They're blindfolded. Well, they've cultivated their intuition. That's a very specific example, but that's what we're trying to achieve here in self-mastery, because a growing intuition is a sign of growing mastery. So one of my favorite examples with intuition, and the techs, when it happens the first time, it's always great to see it. But you know, we have a lot of little parts and stuff, and there's some parts where you really need to count them, make sure you have exactly how many you need, just so we're not throwing parts willy-nilly. You've got to avoid shrink and stuff. But when somebody reaches in a bucket and they grab screws and they lay it on their table, and it's exactly the amount of screws, that's a sign of intuition. Your body has accepted what you've done. You've done the fundamentals long enough that your hand now knows, without you even knowing it, how many screws you got in that hand. And when they see that, it's like, oh, that's it. You're starting to learn. You're starting to become a master. So if you can find those moments, try to cultivate that, and that's how you can start seeing it. Because intuition is so abstract. It's not like you don't get a letter in the mail saying, hey, you got it, right? So this is a sign that you could use to help teach and produce high-level associates. So here's a little graph of what I just talked about. So we're all starting off with fundamentals. Fundamentals lead to understanding of concepts. Understanding of concepts with your fundamentals is where you create a mastery of a certain task. So I'm being a little vague and a little abstract because I don't know what the fundamentals you're working on. Same with what I'm working on, but what we're trying to achieve is you create a fundamental. As they're learning it, they understand what they're doing. Once they understand what they're doing and they understand the fundamental, then they start actually mastering it, right? As they master it, that intuition grows, and here's the secret sauce: the more intuition you have, the better safety you get. In our example, we have, we don't want our devices failing at any point, but sometimes you teach a person how to build a device, they're doing the same thing, but they have less failures. But it's because their intuition is growing. They're actually seeing things before they even realize it, and it creates a better avenue for safety. As more safety you have, the more confidence you get. You're not having as many failures. You're failing safely. Then you learn more fundamentals, and it just keeps feeding itself. So that's kind of what we're trying to achieve here with this self-mastery. So I'm emphasizing again that this is a culture thing. And the culture starts with great masters or great leaders. You can't expect a new employee to come in and know the culture of your company. The leaders have to be the forefront and the examples of creating that culture that you're desiring with your team. Strong leaders should create better versions of themselves. So nobody likes a leader where they teach you just enough and you just feel like it's almost like they're king of the castle, and you're never even gonna see that throne. That's not a good way of thinking about it. A strong leader, you're almost wanting to create replicas of yourself, because if you're a good leader, you're the one doing the hard work. Sometimes you feel like it's better just to do it myself, but that's not the way to think about it. We have to create better leaders because we're only here for a short period of time, and somebody's got to take your place. And if you want to be the legend, you want to create that, then you need to create people just like you. And so you really need to be constantly thinking about that. A strong culture of integrity and honor manifests safety. So as a leader, it's not just telling people what to do. You also have to represent that. You have to have the integrity, that culture of honor, and that's how you're going to get that outcome in the safety. So we focus on the culture and safety. We focus on the culture, and safety will not be a choice. It's not like they have to turn it on or off, but it'll actually be part of the warrior code. They want to be warriors. They want to envelop that honor. Then being safe is part of it, right? So I'm going to do a couple, be a little more specific on kind of the way I lead, and these are just different tactics, and just kind of give another example of how I took some of these concepts and how I turned it into how I lead. So first example, Tiger Jingyi Kung Fu. So my first Kung Fu teacher, he was I call him a tiger fighter, just real in your face, pressure fighting. Defense was being offensive, right? You control what's going on through your offense. It requires great cardio. So, if you're throwing all your moves and you're not really working on your cardio, you're going to gas out, and gassing out is not good, right? So it's great against opponents who wait and require groove or rhythm. So if you have a task that you're trying to really just get past the demand, get past an obstacle, then this is a way to think about it. But all these different kinds of way of leading are going to have negative, there's always a negative to everything. So susceptible to counterfighters. So I've experienced this myself. This is from one of my losses. I was being too forward, nothing but thinking about attack, and my opponent, he was waiting for it. So I gave it to him, and that's why I have one of those losses. So I kind of think of this as like being a results-driven leader. And as you're creating systems that maximize numbers. So, we're a manufacturing company, so this was the easy one for me. I have production logs, I have serial number records, all this stuff, and I could see what's being built, I can see what's going out the door, and I'm going to create systems to where I can maximize those numbers, because if the numbers are correct, then I know I'm being successful. So work with your team to focus on high output. And if you can have a great, strong team and everyone's in it to win it, then you can accomplish things that a single person couldn't even dream of. So a big order comes through, you're in with that team, they know what they got to do. You can pump out hundreds of something that one person, it would take 10, the same amount of time, 10 or 15, right? So requires amazing project managing skills. So you have to understand everything. Sometimes it could be overwhelming, but if you kind of can get the big picture of it, then it's your job to project manage, right? Great against demand large volume tasks, but susceptible to burnout and lack of individual growth, unable to spread and conquer. So yes, when you get big numbers out and you're beating records and all this stuff, you don't want to miss the point that we also want to individually teach each person as their own and grow and cultivate each person. So it's not always about big numbers, but when you're trying to see good outcomes and you want your team to see something that's almost seems impossible, this is a way to tackle it, right? Second strategy comes from my martial arts of Iaido. Iaido is super, super, super picky. I mean, where your foot is, where your hands are, it it has taught me how to just really pinpoint and have attention to detail on everything. So that martial art really taught me, like, how can you, to be very specific when you're teaching people stuff. And Iaido itself is a very serious martial art. You know, if you think about, you're using a 3-foot razor blade, you know, when you're doing your katas, the outcome of the kata is usually you're alive and they're not. So that same kind of mental space being in there, you know, that seriousness, you know, I try to bring that into the workplace, because we can goof off, have a good time every once in a while, but when we really need something out the door, we need to be able to switch that gear and, like, switch that switch and make sure everybody's on the same page with that. So it does require patience and integrity, because if you want those very specific, very detailed things done, you have to consistently hash at it. So, and you have to be the example for that. It's great for acquiring for the martial arts itself. You know, how can sword fighting be good for cage fighting? And it'd be distance control, you know, understanding the fine details of the fight, all that kind of stuff. So a funny story with this is, when I started MMA, it was more, the culture of it was more mixed martial arts. So when you'd get a fight, sometimes the promoter would ask you to list what your martial arts were. I always chose Kung Fu, boxing, and Iaido. And I remember getting asked, like, why are you putting Iaido as one of your, like, cage fighting martial arts? And it's because of, I'm looking at it like this way. I'm distance control, meditation, all those different things. Those are actually helping me in the cage. Nowadays, MMA is almost a style, so I got to experience that. But this translates over to being a very coach-driven leader. So creating systems to help teach associates most efficiently, really sitting in and teaching them very specific things. A good example, yes, I could tell a tech how to put a resistor in some holes, right? But I'll even get specific and hold the board in my left hand, show them my technique on how to bend the legs, put it in there, and that if they continuously do this, you can get it done in this period of time. So really challenge yourself as a leader to, like, start thinking about where your feet are, like, how's your posture. You know, if we're doing a lot of physical work, you know, lift with your legs, not your back. I mean, you guys have to teach that. You have to show that, hey, when you're doing this job, be aware of those things, body, mind, and spirit, all three, right? So requires great knowledge of the process of everything. So if you're trying to be super specific, you know, you have to teach your associates to empty the cup, right? So that, and then you can give them that knowledge. And if you have all that knowledge packed and they empty their cup, they come in fresh. Even when they've been with you for years, if you can teach them how to think about knowledge, then that's where you can get some really high-level people. Susceptible to closed-mindedness and transfer of technique to other tasks. So we've got to be careful about telling someone to do something exactly how you want to do it all the time. We just need to be aware that if you're really coaching people, and you also have to, eventually you're going to have to let go, and you have to let them try it out, and then and as a coach, as a leader, then that's when you're working on how to steer them in the right direction. So we just want to make sure we're not getting too closed-minded, and let them be free just a little bit. Last one, you know, I've been in the ring. I just fought a couple months ago, and pressure testing your martial arts, you know, it's the next high level up. I was just training with a guy the other day, and he was like, how can I do my forms to make me better at fighting? And I said, well, you got to fight, right? So when you've actually done something like fighting, and you've felt that pressure, that transfers over to almost being like a hero leader. A hero leader is the guy that when something really hits the fan, you're getting in the trenches, and you're being that prime example of, like, if something happens and this is how I think about it, how I do it. I like to say being like a Leonidas, like of the 300. If you think about how they did things, Leonidas was right the front one in the pack. He was in the trenches with his team. So while you're in there and you're doing that task that you know you're doing the best, make sure that you're also showing them how you're thinking, showing them how your spirit, how you're keeping that passion at a high level, and how you can accomplish that goal, because this is very susceptible to missing the point of being a manager, right? If you're a leader, you're being a leader. You can't always be the guy doing the stuff. So get in there, get in the trenches with your guys, but just like all the other techniques, you don't want to go too hard. You need balance. So I chose 3 different styles, and that I try to balance all 3 depending on what's going on. So getting to the end here. So in martial arts, we bow before and after training. It keeps your mind, you know, that you're starting something, you're finishing something. It's not out of weakness, but it's out of respect. You know, that all these things are not original. So we're being part of something, you bow to it, and then when you're done, you also bow to it. Safety begins and ends with respect for life. So at the end of everything, love is always the answer, right, guys? So it sounds a little sappy, but even with spirit and loving your job and loving your family, that's respect for life. So if we can maintain that's really the end result. That's the actual true fundamental we're all trying to get to, right? So as a leader, as you take some of my stuff, I hope some of it was relatable and interesting, but be the person who creates safety wherever you go. So that's what we're trying to do here at the culture. So that's it. Thank you, guys.